it's me, Renee. I'm back. And as you can see, this is another Eurovision themed video. Today, I decided to do a little video on underrated books that I recommend to read for Eurovision because sometimes you want to pick up something that's not something everyone talks about. Now, I suppose my first question might be like, well, how do you define underrated? Because, yeah, at least to me, sometimes I feel like I watch articles of like listings of like top 20, top 10 underrated books by the readers, and I click it's like Harry Potter, Twilight, and like, in what world? So like, yeah, they sometimes like they mention people books that are quite well known, and I don't know. I feel like shouldn't at least like underrated shouldn't is it more or less like synonymous with like not known? It's not really a book some people think about all the time, but I suppose yeah, depends on who you ask. I suppose. I suppose also depends on what you read. Like if you normally read lots of crime and then you read some romance, maybe you feel like a romance author is underrated. But like if you're reading lots of crime and then suddenly pick up Talia Hibbert, no, if you suddenly pick up um if you suddenly pick up Sarah McLean, yeah, let's go with her, because I feel like yeah, she's very well known. If you pick up her and then go around saying like I read this unknown author, supposed to you maybe, but like to other romance readers, not really. So depends a bit like how you see it that way. And then I feel like sometimes people like talk about underrated books as books that came out a while ago. I don't know. To me, I kind of have this definition of underrated, which is also, as I suppose, a bit. It could be interpreted in different ways, but I kind of think of it as like if people ask, "Have you read?" Maybe if you like, if people ask you like, no, I suppose like if more like if people are asked like if you go to the guy in the street and ask, "Have you read this book?" or like, "What's the last book you read?" And like I feel like underrated books is books that people never mention in those kinds of stuff. Like it's not really the book that's kind of present in the media in that kind of like the media frame. Like I mean, if a book is memed and sorry quoted and talked about all the time, I don't really understand how we could see it underrated. Like, I feel like a book can be old and still like referenced. Like Jane Austen, she's an old author. She's dead a long time, but she's still like. I suppose it depends a bit who you are, but I feel like most people at least have some sort of idea that Jane Austen, like she wrote Fitzwilliam Darcy, like they have some sort of idea what she wrote and created and stuff like that. They kind of have some idea around it. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of yeah. So like to me, underrated books is books that not like the everyday man thinks about, or like the yeah everyday person thinks about quickly at least. Like it's not the first thing you would recommend people. I suppose unless you're like me who like to recommend underrated books. But yeah, like if you're like yeah, it's kind of like the books that are kind of hidden gems. I suppose yeah, I suppose yeah, hidden gems is also another word for underrated books, and like if you're gonna call something hidden gems, then you shouldn't really mention a book that's hugely popular. Even if like if someone mentions I don't know Hunger Games and like calls it underrated book, I'm like, how? In what way? I mean, it was massively popular when it came out. It got a TV series trilogy, not series, it got a movie series trilogy, massively popular. It's popular again now, but like it has spin-off and yeah. In what world will they call it a hidden gem? I don't know. I don't know. I suppose you could go on for ages talking about how people be weird sometimes when they answer stuff. Like you can like ask them to like mention something new, and then they mention something from like 40 years ago. It's like that's not new. But yeah, or whatnot. Anyway, or like also yeah, I kind of want to mention it still. I mean, while we're like kind of slightly ranting, have people like in the general media or like the I suppose they're not like fringes, but like people who are just kind of yeah, who just like they exist in the media. They still go around thinking that Disney princesses are weak. Like yeah, because last year, 2 years ago, Legends of Tomorrow did like an episode of like kind of parodying Disney princesses and kind of like making like think of the idea that Disney princesses are kind of like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. They're just kind of walking around, not doing much, helpless. And like this episode came out in 2021, 2020, I think. So like by then we had Elsa and Anna, we'd had Moana, we'd have Tiana, we'd had Rapunzel from Tangled. We have all these characters. We'd have Kida from Atlantis, and we could even go as far back as Mulan. Mulan, she's a princess. She's Disney. People for some reason think like still think that Disney princesses equals weak and not resourceful, which no, that's not true at all. But yeah, I've been blabbing that for a while. Yeah, let's get to the books. Um, and yeah, let's get to books. I'm not gonna think it. Which books should I start with? You know what? I'm just gonna start here. So yeah, this is actually one of those books that are kind of old. So like older, so those yeah, hidden gems in a way that it's hidden. It's older. It's Finicking of the Rock by Malena Macheta. It's the first in a high fantasy companion trilogy, so you can read all three books, but you don't have to read them all because they're companion series, so you don't have to read them all. Melina Macheta, she's an Australian author, so and yeah, Australia is participating in Eurovision. They have been for some years now. So yeah, if you kind of in the mood for some Australian fantasy, check out this book. Highly recommend it. And then we have Valkyrie Rising by Ingrid Paulson. I did talk about this one in a recent video, but yeah. So this is uh, a standalone. It's set in Norway, outside Bergen. And it's all about Valkyries and Loki and Norse gods and Norse myths. And yeah, it's just great book. And yeah, highly recommend it. And I feel like, yeah, I don't really feel like it's been talked about at much at all, really. Like, I don't know, yeah. I feel like underrated is books that people don't talk about. And I feel like anyone else except me talks about this one. I suppose some people have talked about it, but yeah, I feel like it's quite underrated. It's not really mentioned at all, and it should be talked about more. I feel like, and yeah. And then we have Starry Nights by Daisy Whitney. So here the author is American, but the story is set in Paris or Paris. So you can use this for France for the Eurovisionathon. It's a great standalone. I'm gonna say, yeah, quirky magical realism book because there's some magic in it, but it's not like I suppose it is. Okay, so it's not like yeah, it's urban fantasy, so it's set in Paris modern day. But yeah, you have some big fantasy elements to it, really. And also, I kind of feel like Daisy Whitney is mostly known for one of the other books, which is a kind of hard-hitting contemporary book. This one is not that. But yeah, Starry Nights, Daisy Whitney, amazing read. All people should definitely check it out. And then we have, yeah, randomly, just kind of on purpose, but yeah, another book that you can use from France is The Stepsister Scheme, the Stepsister Scheme by Jim C. Hines. Author is American, but it's based on okay, so it's an adult retelling of fairy tales. Adult because there's sex mention and violence and kind of things like that, and their like main characters are in the early 20s, early and late 20s. So yeah, they're not teens anymore. But yeah, also and yeah, so this one it's kind of set around Cinderella and kind of just tells the story what happens after happily ever after. It's based upon the Charles Perrault version of Cinderella. So Charles Perrault was a French author who wrote a Cinderella version. I mean, Cinderella, as a lot of fairy tales, has had lots of different versions around the world and whatnot. But yeah, Charles Perrault's might be one that's most famous. Is it maybe? It's one of the most famous ones. Anyway, and yeah, so and it is. I feel like it's set in Paris. Am I mistaken? I feel like it might be set in Paris. At least the beginning of the book is kind of set in a um, Paris-like state, Paris-like place. So, yeah, you can use this one for France if you want. Then a book I haven't really talked about ever. I talked about it, but it's been a while. It's been quite a while. It is East by Edith Patel. So this one came out in 2010, 2011, 2005. Yeah, 2005. So people could actually be born this year again. It came out and now read it. But yeah. So it came out in 2005 originally. And yeah, it's a retelling of a Norwegian fairy tale, East of the Sun and West of the Moon. Though that fairy tale is quite similar to Beauty and the Beast. I suppose you could just call that Beauty and the Beast retelling. But yeah, the funny thing is that it's kind of like it's slightly based in Norway. Like it starts. Well, if I'm not wrong here, but I feel like yeah, it starts in Norway. So like it starts in like the geographical place Norway, and then slow and steady kind of moves into more fantastical places and stuff. So I suppose it's fairy tale retelling in a slightly realistic start. And yeah, it's quite good. And yeah, if you really like fairy tale retellings, I would say check it out. And also, yeah, it has some historical historical connections to it. I'm just gonna mention that and nothing more than that really, because it's a fun little it tidbit Easter egg at the end. Because it's just at the very end really. And yeah, also there's actually I want to say prequel, it's a sequel, companion anyway to it that came out 5 years ago now, a few years ago now though. I have not read that one yet, but I do quite want to. And yeah, so yeah, fairy tale retellings for Norway, or you know what, I'm just gonna hint at it, or again France. Check out this one because there's some France mentioned in it. And then we have, I suppose, yeah, finding books for eurovisionathon, finding books based around France. It's not going to be the most difficult thing, but I suppose if you want like recommendations for other readers, check out my recommendations. And my unreadable recommendations. Yep, anyway. And then we have Love a la Mode, which is set. Is this? I'm just kind of thinking. Oh, wait. Is this set in blah 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 blah? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's set in Paris. It's set in a boarding school. But the funny. The funny thing is in this boarding school, so it's a cooking school. So like they mainly like make lots of different food recipes. But then once a week they bake stuff and like make sweets. The main character in this book, Rosie, she mainly likes to bake stuff, but she knows that like to get into this like if she's going to the school she has to also learn to also make food, which is like kind of like okay, but like I also know like the pastry stuff is going to be amazing, so kind of she kind of has to learn to be better at making food, but like the pastry she has down to a knot. And most of the other students in her class kind of are better at making food than making pastries, so they kind of suppose they learn from each other in that way. And it's people from all over Europe and the world. So it's, I suppose it's kind of like another French kiss, but more like better. I suppose that sounds weird, but yeah, it's uh, not so very long and cute and nice and love story. It's set in Paris and yeah, quite recommend it. Quite recommend it. Yeah, if you want a fluffy, nice read, check it out. And then we have Are Kalve, which is a Norwegian author, and I suppose this is a Norwegian book. I'm pretty sure it's just exists in Norwegian. But yeah, as I mentioned actually on Instagram, but yeah, Are Kalve, so he's a Norwegian comedian, but also it's pretty good in English. He just doesn't really do stand-up in English because most people do it in their own languages. But yeah, so he does stand up, he writes stuff, and he also like he writes theater and for other people and his own stuff and stuff. And then he also writes some books. He mostly writes non-fiction. Sometimes he writes fiction. And his latest book, well, before this one, is all about hiking, and it is available in English. Hiking from Hell, and it's all about Norwegian hiking culture. But I suppose also like if you're from a new place, like if you're part of family or rest of your family likes to hike and you don't, you would really like this book. I suppose this is kind of like a stand-in for that book. Though I suppose you could in theory like get this Norwegian book and then just like Google translate it. I suppose kind of weird to read a book purely from Google Translate. Though that would be interesting. Interesting experience. Like just reading a book completely in that way. That would be interesting experience, wouldn't it? But yeah. Anyway, yes, Adekara, very funny. He has one book right now out in English, and maybe he has more in the future. Who knows? I think he actually translated it himself because yeah, he's that good. Though I might be wrong here. So yeah. And then we have sorry. I'm only in for the parking. From by Neil Riley or Lost Voice Guy. He is a British comedian and he is disabled in a way that he doesn't really have a voice. Like quite literally, he can't talk. He makes sounds, but he can't talk. So he writes jokes and then he has a computer voice like telling jokes for him. And yeah, so this is his biography. So yeah, he's English. So if you use this for England, as well as again, England not the most difficult place to find books for. But again, like if you want to find a book that's not like obvious read, like if you don't want to check a book that's come out recently from the latest bestsellers, check out my choices. And yeah, so this one, it's a biography by him. It's about being disabled in the UK. It's about being him in the UK and being comedian in the UK. And yeah, it's quite a good book, really. It's not long at all. And yeah, yellow. So I suppose this is the month of Easter. So I suppose if you want to start something before May, check out this yellow book. Then we have another book that's set in England, well, around England. It is Article Out by Laura James. This is about a adult woman who finds out she has autism in her, so like she gets diagnosed in her 40s, I want to say, yeah, 40s. She's always felt different, but she doesn't get diagnosed before, yeah, being an adult. So this kind of she goes back to her childhood and like kind of talks about how her childhood she felt in her childhood, like things happening then, and then she goes to her like modern day, and yeah, so you see a bit of Brexit, a bit of this, a bit of that. Not a big story at all, and yeah, kind of yeah, highly recommend it if you like biographies, if you like to read about people with autism, and yeah, check it out. Then we have Half a Soul, again, an English book. I feel like this isn't really talked about that much. Okay, so it came out a few years ago, first independently, like independent, well, indie published, and then it became published by Four last year, 2 years ago, last year, sorry, by Orbit Books last year, and yeah, so it's a companion series, but I feel like this book kind of like tells us, well, it tells a complete story, but yeah, you can read more in the same universe if you want. So yeah, Half a Soul, what it's about. It's set in the 1800s, I want to say 1700s, 1800s. Okay, so it's set in olden days, like in the Jane Austen-ish era. It's in a world where you have fays, but you also have like the normal everyday people, and you don't have vampires. No, I think yeah, you just have fays. Well, you have fays, and then you have wizards. But yeah, that's kind of more or less it. Am I? I don't think so. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And the main character, when she was like 12, a fairy tried to like kill her or like take her soul, but he was stopped, so he only got half her soul. So like for most of her life, she like has only had half a soul, and because of that, she doesn't really get cold. She doesn't really get warm, and doesn't really understand social cues. So I would kind of say that she kind of reads like a person with autism. I mean, it's not put specifically in the book, but that's kind of my head canon and how like I read it. And yeah, if you like whimsical, nice romance stories set in the olden days in England, check out this book. Then we have Stonebroke Heiress, which takes place in Liverpool, which is the place that holds the Eurovision this year. So yeah, very good book I would say to check out for Eurovision. Really perfect book I would say. It's a book that for some reason I'm blank here. Is it I? No, it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's a very funny book. Yeah, I would say it's mainly like a it's kind of fish out of war story mainly. There's romance in it, but I would say it's more like B plot than an A plot. And yeah, if you really like fish out of war stories, if you like, I suppose yeah, I can't talk about this one before, and I feel like it's slightly in a way same way as Legally Blonde because it's a rich woman who you kind of think first like, oh, okay, you don't know stuff, and you how can you survive in the world? And then of course she has to survive in this new world because circumstances or because yeah she has no job so she has to start over again and yeah it's a very funny story. I laughed so much when I read it last fall, but it also has a good very good like things to think about in it and a good dialogue and yeah honestly perfect read. I don't really have anything. No, I don't have anything to complain about at all. So yeah, check out if this one if you want a good laugh. If that kind of thing sounds like a thing for you. Give me a moment. I think I'm just gonna fix up things a bit here. Weird. Okay. And then we have A Girl Called Shameless, which is the second one in a duology. First one being the exact opposite of okay. Both of these stories, sorry, both of these stories are set in the US, but the author is from from England. So yeah, again, I'm gonna count it. It's a YA series, and it's all about slut shaming, which is quite current and important theme. It's very funny. I would say like if you like Veronica Marsh but want something more recent, check out this because it kind of yeah feels kind of very Veronica Marshish. Yeah, there's no mystery here, but it's well I suppose the first book has slightly mystery. But yeah, mainly it's about slut shaming and being different, being an outsider, stuff like that. And yeah, with that we have sorry, had to cough a bit. And then we have Midnight Frost or Memphis Academy by Jennifer A. Estep. This one takes place in the US, but the main characters, okay, so like this exists in a world where you have all the mythology exists. So you have Roman gods, real, Greek gods, real, Valkyries, real, all those kinds of stuff. So like if you want something for Sweden, if you want something with Denmark, because Norse gods, you can choose this book. If you want something in Norway, choose this book. So I have other things to recommend for Norway. Well, I have recommend other things for Norway. We you could do it for Greece, Italy, yeah, Japan. There's also Japan mythology. Yeah, well, there's also Japan doesn't compete in Eurovision. Anyway, yeah, very funny, very light-hearted, but also great villains and great story altogether. Yeah, check out this series. Yeah, and that kind of stuff. And then we have Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows, which is the first in a duology, I want to say. Yeah, it's a duology. Well, don't know if this is going to be a third book, but yeah, so far there's 2 books anyway. So it's based around Latinx mythology, which means both mythology in Spain, but also from Latin America, but also there's also some elements of things happening. Like they go to Portugal for a bit in this book, but there's also like some Portuguese myths in there. So yeah, it's all those kinds of places. So if you want something from Spain or from Portugal, for all of those things, check out this book. Very good. Again, a book I love so much. thinking, yeah, actually one of my new favorite reads of all time. Read it last year. Love it so much, and yeah, highly recommend it. And then we have from Australia, Amelia Westlake Was Never Here by Erin Gough. It Erin Gough is Australian, but the story also takes place in Australia. So yeah, works in two levels really. It's a contemporary YA, and it's all about patriarchy and taking it down because patriarchy is stupid. It's set in a private school. It's not like Veronica Mars in a way this crime, but it's more like rich versus poor, I suppose, in a way, like the class struggle and stuff like that. And yeah, it's very good. And then we have another one from England. Yes, I have quite a lot for England. Sue me. Those was yeah. I have done other videos where earlier years where I've done other uh where I've done like from other places as well. So yeah, it's not like yeah. Anyway, Bargain Bin Romcom by Lina Norms. This one came out last year. It's a collection of poems, not a long book at all. And yeah, so if you kind of want to check out some poems, if you want to have like a quick read, check out this book. Yes. And then we have a book I feel like people should check out just for the title alone because it's just a great title. Like maybe like and I won't dare you to read this book and read it in physical form on a tube or train or like a bus. It's just so fun to like check out people around you think sometimes because the title of this one is No One Ever Has Sex on a Tuesday, which yeah, and sex is with big letters. But yeah, I feel like it's just so cool how like the publisher decided to go all the way with this book, not just give it that title, but like sex in big. And yeah, I suppose you might think like from the title that it has a lot of sex in it. It doesn't. It's more like I would say it's more like a bit like middle age, uh, midlife crisis story. Like it's about someone who goes to high school reunion. Stuff happens. They meet someone, but then they also already have someone at home, and like should you go with a nice new guy that you just met or the guy that you already know? And yeah, it's a very funny book. And yeah, book set in England. It's also set in London, so it's kind of fun to check out. Read someone that's not London based. Like everything, well, a lot of books are London based. So yeah, whenever I find books that's not London based, I'm quite happy. And then we have Shape Kurosande, a beginner's guide to acting in English. This is her biography of like her childhood in England, of like yeah, of both her childhood in England, but also like her early years in Iran. She was born and she lived in Iran till she was I want to say four. I think it maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5 around that. Like she was young, but she wasn't like young. I mean, she has my memories from Iran anyway. And yeah, so like when she comes to England, she can't really speak English. So it's about like language barrier, but it's also about culture differences. And yeah, it's just a very good book. I highly recommend it. I also can say like yeah, I suppose if you like want a crime, check out this book. But also like if you like want something to recommend, or maybe you to read along with a 12-year-old or 10-year-old, I feel like this would be a good book because yeah, I feel like it's kind of like an old ages book. It's a book that you can read like when you're 12 and get lots of things out of it and just enjoy it so much. But it's also a book you can read when 2022 or 32 and really much enjoy it. So yeah, a book for everyone in a way. Sorry. Then we have The Accidental Medium by Tracy Whitwell. And this one is also, yeah, surprise, English author and takes place in England. Uh, though this one takes place mainly in London, though it takes place a bit in Manchester. Yeah, Manchester. So yeah, they go a bit around the place. And yeah, it's quite funny. At the end, I suppose, anyway, so spoiler alert, but yeah, it's just like, at the end, it's just like, and then, there's murder in the air. Like the murder happens very last in the book. Like if you're looking for a crime with some laughs, not check out this book because mainly it's not that crimey. It's more like a girl trying to live her life, suddenly becoming a medium, and then at the end there's some crime. Like in the beginning and most of the book, not that crimey. But yeah, not full of crime really. So just be warned for that. Though I do really recommend it. Yeah, quite enjoyable. And then we have Curse of the Spectre Queen, which takes place in Ireland, not England. So yeah, tricked you there. But yeah, starts in the UK, sorry, UK, US, but then most of it takes place in Ireland, and it also involves Irish history and Irish mythology. So yeah, a funny book for Ireland if you want to do one of those. It's kind of like if you like Indiana Jones, check out this one. It's for teens, but yeah, it's kind of like very much Indiana Jones inspired, rompy and adventure and fun, and also actually first in the series. So yeah. Then we have another Irish read, being Honey and Issues Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Yaigidar. So this is also a sapphic love story. Why a sapphic love story? So if you want something contemporary love story and set in multicultural aspects, check out this book. And then we have Love is for Losers. It takes place in England, but the author is German, so I suppose you can use either one of those countries, which ones you kind of want a book for. And yeah, this is a very funny book. So if you want a funny read, check out this book. Also, be warned, you might lose your breath laughing. Yeah, it's that funny. So yeah. And then we have Things a Bright Girl Can Do, taking place in England in 1910s, before the second, well, before second, but also before the First World War, around the suffragette movement. Lots of good aspects to this book. It's fun, has great romance aspects to it. It has great dialogue, and yeah, just honestly great everything. So yeah. Sorry. And then we have again, I suppose this one, is it underrated? Maybe not. But okay, I suppose maybe this one is kind of more like just me kind of recommending this book. But I suppose you might find people who haven't heard of this author. It's not an author who's been around forever. So I suppose that way people have not maybe heard of it, and that may it's underrated to them. Anyway, it is Take a Hit, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, the second in the Brown Sisters trilogy. And yeah, this one takes place with Danny. Danny is a bisexual, and also yeah, love interest is also bisexual. But yeah, they fall for each other. It's a grumpy sunshine love story, and yeah, it's just also fake dating love story, and yeah, very much enjoy it. Yes. So let's move on. Then we have another one set around in England. It is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Came out last year by Sanu Mandana. So this is urban fantasy. It's witches, but in modern day UK. It's found family. There's witches. There's some mystery, but there's also a love story. Though I won't really say it's a romance. It's more like a witch book with some romance in it. But yeah, it's a good romance story in it. And yeah, if you want a comforting, lovely read, check out this book. And then we have A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol. This is a middle grade book, and the main character is, well, it's also again English author, English set story. Main character has autism, and it's kind of like about her dealing with autism and dealing with neurotypical world, which not all that easy often. and also she deals with bullies and stuff like that. And something's a bit heartbreaking in this book, but mostly it's a very good book and not long at all. And yeah, check it out. And then we have another Australian book, Old Magic by Marion Cooley, one of my all-time favorite reads. And yeah, time travel, romance, witches, curses, prophecies. If any of these sound like your kind of jam, you're gonna love this book. So good. And yeah, also standalone, so it's not really something you have to commit to like a whole series. And then we have A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. So this one came out last year. I feel like it's a bit like all over, though I suppose. So I suppose maybe, is this underrated? Maybe not. But I don't know. I kind of still want to talk about it because it's so amazing. I feel like everyone should read it. Like, if you have not read it, read it. It is amazing. If you love historical romance, if you love romance, if you just love amazing stories, it's amazing in every way. You need to read it. Yes, that's kind of my little did bit for it. But yeah. Then we have a book that's not just England, and it's actually also a non-fiction book. Yeah, I have some of these in this pile. Not all of them. Some. It is Babel, Around the World in 20 Languages. So Gaston Duran, he is Dutch. So I suppose you could go with this for Dutch because he's in Netherlands because it's Dutch, or you could go with the one languages. So okay, suppose he also has another book that's called. Give me a moment. He has another cool book called Around Europe in 20 Languages, which is about European languages. That was also a good book to pick up for this one. This one, though, I have not actually read myself, but okay, I started, but I have not finished it. But anyway, yeah. So I still um planning to read it or finish it soon. But yeah, so you have languages in this one. It's kind of all about the 20 biggest languages in the world. So you have English, you have Spanish, you have French. I'm just gonna double check here. Blah, 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 blah. You have German, you have Turkish, you have um, Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French. So yeah, if you need a book for any of those countries, check out this book. Yeah, as I said, I haven't read this yet. I started, haven't finished it. But I read the first book, which I loved so much, and yeah, it's kind of just like small chapters on the different languages, their cultures, whatnot. So yeah, check out this one if you really like languages and nonfiction, and also sometimes we might think like nonfiction that sounds scary and serious. No, this author is very good at communicating, so it's very fast read and easily read. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about it being a heavy read. No, it's an easy read. So yeah. And then we have England again. This time we have Timekeeper by Tara Sim. This being not time travel, well, not the first book, but yeah, there's time magic in it, and the main character is gay. It's set in 1800. It's set in a different version of our world where being gay in the 1800s wasn't illegal, but it wasn't like, oh, so nice, you're gay. It was still discriminated for because people were stupid. But yeah, it's a great trilogy. So yes, I would say the first book is the best. It could have easily been a standalone. Anywho, yeah, still check it out. Very good. Then we have Wonderdust, another Sandtone story. This one, this book starts in the US, but then, yeah, both this and the second book takes place partly in Italy, so use it for Italy. And then the last book takes place in UK. No, I don't remember. At least, yeah, second book I remember having like very important Italy scenes. So yeah, if you like time travel, check out this series. And then we have The Next Together by Laura James. Sorry, Lauren James. This is again uh, central geology. This is the first one, and then you have another one after this. Well, I suppose this one is more reincarnation, but there's some time travel elements to it. Second one is a time travel element to it. And yeah, they both have great romance elements to them. There's also some great mystery to them. And yeah, if you like kind of stuff, YA book, check out. And then we have, yeah, the last three are nonfiction reads. Yes, I have some nonfiction here and there. First one being Pride by Tim Tate with LGSM. So, as you might think, like from the cover, oh, I've seen that cover before. Yeah, this cover is from the movie. Okay, so this kind of book has, supposed in a way, kind of long story. First, something happened in the UK in the 80s that kind of made an impact. And then in 2012, I want to say, 13. Anyway, in 2000s, they made a movie out of what happened. And then after the movie came out, Tim Tate decided to interview the people because yeah, it really happened. So this, so the people here are people from the movie, but like he went and had and like interviewed people who participated in this thing. You might think like, what's the thing? Okay, in case you didn't know, in the 80s, lots of miners went striking in Wales because they really didn't really have that good working conditions because yeah, of course that's why you strike. I suppose you have different reasons to strike, but yeah. At the same time, you have the AIDS pandemic, but they also have like the LGBTQ community in London. They were discriminated, but they also had the community together and whatnot. And then a group of people in London decided to go to Wales to kind of help them demonstrate and help them in their strike. So yeah, the community of queers went together with the um, community of strikers, miners, and yeah. So this is kind of a story of how those communities come together, become friends, and also like I suppose yeah, the interview about their lives and stuff. So about their biographies, but also about their like how what they had experienced in the childhood, what they had experienced in the 80s, but also how they have life now. And yeah, it's a very good, informative, nice book. I was a bit like curious, like would I enjoy it because I saw the movie and then I saw like, oh, this is interesting. Give me a moment. Yes, like if I would like the book, but yeah, I read the book now 2 years ago. I love it, so good, and yeah, highly recommend it. Even if you have watched the movie, it's quite like a good filler, or like it gives you new information. And like, of course, any movie is never like completely like the real story or like what it's based on and whatnot. So yeah, sorry. And then we have Women in Art, 50 fearless creatives who inspired the world. Talked about this one before, but yeah, it's just a great book all in all, and biographies of people from all over the world, but a lot of them Europeans, and artists who changed the world in different ways. Beautiful art, of course, like beautiful around the text, and then beautiful pictures, and yeah, highly recommend it. And then we have sorry, men to avoid in art and real life. So yeah, it's it's kind of like art and then some text on it. So it's a quickie, but yeah, good read. So yeah, that's my underrated. Though, how many of these are underrated? I'll say most of them all. Not thought about that much. Anyway, yeah, underrated book tips for eurovisionathon. I suppose just in general when you want underrated books. If you have thoughts on any of these books, if you have underrated books you want to recommend, please do in the comments. And I'll see you soon. Bye.